Let's create our first block. So we will leave the header for later. Let's start with this hero section. And let's close the levels. Okay, and inspect how the layout is done. So, okay, like here we have a section that contains both the header and then the hero main section. So I prefer to separate these two. So to have navigation separately. So let's just drag the div that contains the navigation out into the content, into the main content div. And we can notice that it didn't interfere with the site structure. Everything still displays correctly. So now we can select the section, and it only contains the kind of this introduction or hero element. Let's call it hero. So, okay, to convert this into Gutenberg blocks, it's very simple in Pinegrow. So just select the section, and then in WordPress panel, we add the block action. And we have to give a block a unique ID. So let's say hero. And Pinegrow will take care of prefixing the project, Slack, and orders or other kind of things that are required by WordPress. And let's give it a name, hero. We'll skip the description and the icon. And then let's add a new custom category for our block. So let's call it flex. And we will register it. Category name, flex, website blocks. So that all our blocks will be collected in one place. And then we also want to make the block editable. Like all of these elements should be editable. So let's do that as well. So I will double click on the project panel to collapse it so that we have more space. And let's make this a bit bigger. I actually can't, we can do it here 100%. And now let's select the header span. And to make this editable, we just say, okay, here we will define a block attribute. And we need to give it an ID. So what should be like, let's call it a tag, because it's like kind of tag. And we will use it as content. Or tag is not a good name because it might be confused for a post tag. So let's just call it label, and the title will be section label. And that's all that is required. This will now be editable. And then we select the H1, the title, and we say block attributes. And we say this one will be title, and the title of the field will be title. And here we have options if we would want to select, for example, control type. We could do it like text area, reach area, and by default all these texts will be kind of editable text area. But without formatting options. So anyway, we don't need to change anything for now. And then we have the kind of the text. So let's say again block ID, and let's say description. Again, we will use this information as the text as the content of the element. We could also use it as image or link or style or attribute class, or not use it at all. But for now, this will be used as the content, and the title can be And here let's say we will use rich text area, because then we can do some formatting here if needed. And the buttons, so it is a link. So we'll say block attributes, and it has two parts, right? So one is the link. So let's call it so this will be like URL of a page where we want to lead the visitor when they click this button. And then we'll add another attribute, label, button label, or let's say request label, so that we can control the label of this button. And it will be displayed as the content of the element. And the title is request label. Okay, let's also do the sign up. Let's do similarly. So we have sign up link. And add attribute, and we'll say sign up label. That will be used as the content. And here we can do kind of conditional. So if this sign up link is not set, then we don't want to use the default value. So if empty, but we want to remove the element. We don't want to display this button if the sign up link attribute is not set on the block. So, okay, what else do we have here? We have the image. Let's select the image. And again, we will say this is block attribute, image. Image size, we can leave it empty, or we can kind of suggest a size, let's say medium image. And nothing special to set here as attribute options. Okay, so let's go ahead and export the theme. Go here into the home page, say edit, and then let's see, our blog should be here in the Flex website blog section. So let's take it to the page, and we can see it is displayed here, but it has no styling. So let's update and view the site. So here we can see the block quite okay. But here in the editor, there is no styling for the page in the editor. So let's do that back in Pinegrow. Before we do that, let's take a look at how the styling is implemented on the site. So it uses Tailwind, and it looks like it's Tailwind 2. And the file is like Tailwind 2 used to have like the full build of Tailwind is included, and that's like 3 megabytes of CSS code, and that's really not what we want, to have this huge blob of CSS, and most of it won't be used, included on our page. Luckily, we don't have to mess with setting up the Tailwind compilation, because Pinegrow comes with a built-in Tailwind support through an add-on, Tailwind Visual Editor add-on. This gives us powerful tools for customizing and controlling Tailwind. So here we have a design panel. And let's activate the design panel. So now this gives us the tools to customize the Tailwind theme. And not only that, it also uses just-in-time compilation so that the generated CSS file contains only those CSS rules that are actually used in the project. And now when we activated the design panel, the project got default Tailwind styling, and the original project used customized version, so the green was different and it also had an extra cool gray color. So I inspected the CSS file beforehand to grab out the custom shades of green to save some time that would be boring to show here in the video. So I will copy the green shades, and here in green I will say edit shades, and then I will paste in the information. Okay, and notice that the green is now different, it's lighter. And we also had a color called cool gray on the page. So let's add a new color. The name will be cool gray. We are using the same syntax that is used on the original page so that the classes will match. And then the base color is this one, number, like the 500 shade. Add color. And Pinegrow kind of calculated the shades, but we don't want to use calculated shades. We want to use these exact shades that will match the source project, like exactly. Paste that in. Okay, and now you can see that like the color scheme is the same as in our original project. And original project also used a Google font called Poppins. So let's do that. Can do manage fonts, because Poppins it's not loaded by default. Oh, actually we have it here. Here it is. So Poppins is there, and we can just say Sans family. We'll use Poppins. And here we have it. So let's save everything and export the theme, and then go peek behind the curtains. And here now we have the Tailwind, the default Tailwind is not used anymore. So now we have a Tailwind theme. And if we take a look at this file, it just contains the CSS rules that are actually used on the page. And we can notice the CSS linter, like reporting some errors, but these are mostly like due to Tailwind using all sorts of hacks to implement their styling in a smart way. So we can just ignore that, doesn't matter. What's important is that now we have very much optimized CSS file, and it only contains the CSS rules for Tailwind classes that are actually used on the site. Okay, so now we can solve the problem of styling in the block editor. So let's go WordPress, page setting. Oh, sorry, not page setting, WordPress theme settings. And here we have block section where we also can define the editor style sheets. So these are, here we can include, and we have to do it from our source project. let's like flex theme. So here we have Tailwind theme, and we can say, oh, let's include Tailwind CSS. And then we get a hint that we should instead use a special version of this file that is generated by the design panel, and it doesn't include the reset styling that kind of interferes with the styling in the block editor. So, but to illustrate this point, let's just use the Tailwind CSS file as it is and export the theme and go here, reload. So we can see that now the block is correctly styled in the editor, but for example, heading like the H1 is unusually small because Tailwind CSS by default includes a bunch of CSS rules that reset the default CSS styling. So for example, they remove the sizing, the default sizing of heading elements. So then H1, H2 and all the rest have the default like norm, the small size as the same as the regular text. And then that's not so nice. Luckily, Pinegrow makes this easy for us. So let's go Pinegrow and say plugin settings. So here we have this advice to use a special CSS file, but we can see it's not yet generated. So if that happens, so it says here, just trigger an update in design panel. So let's say just do any change and then we can revert it back and we save. And now the file got created and we can use it in plugin, in settings. Here it is Tailwind for WP editor. Save settings and then export the theme. So now let's go back here, reload. And we can see that the home has correct styling. So it's using our custom Tailwind CSS, but a special version that doesn't reset all the styles so that we can still see them correctly in the blocks editor. Okay, so now the fun part, let's select the block. So here it is, our block, and everything, all the elements that we assigned with block attributes are now editable. For example, the header label, we can say, I don't know, hello. And then we can change the title. And the text here is completely editable, and we can even use, because we said it's rich text, we can use some stylings. And then the button, and attributes are also here. So we have like the link for the request. We could just select a post or enter a custom URL. And then also our sign up link, because we said if the sign up link is not set, then don't display the button. And now if we add the sign up link, the button also shows up. And the image, of course, it's editable. So here we can say replace image and select one of our images from the gallery. maybe use a square one. And here we have it. So we have a fully editable custom Gutenberg block. If we update and view the page, so here it is. That was the first block, and now that we have all kind of things in place, the rest of them will go quicker.